So just to give an overview on the background on Italian culture, it is the homeland of the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church, and art is heavily admired and can be viewed in almost every corner of Italy, no matter where you go. Art is just always around. You can always find art pieces, and it's home to many of the world's most famous musicians, alongside famous Italian cuisine, and it's very admired around the world. And in Italy, food is very much admired or viewed as an art. Worcester Square, located in New Haven, Connecticut, has green, white, and red banners hanging alongside its staple iron arch billboard, which refers to their commonly known name, Little Italy. This square got their name due to the Italian immigrants who migrated during the early to mid-1900s, carrying over their Italian culture and cuisine. Now renowned for its world-famous pizzerias, the reputation for pizza spans nearly a century, symbolized by Worcester Square's Frank Pepe Pizzeria, opened in 1925. Not only does pizza occupy the square, but the community contains stores providing groceries, ice, shoes, meat, cheese, and fish. Because of all this, it's a very compact street and community. In a statement from a Worcester Square resident, Rich Biondi, it's not the Italian colony it was 100 years ago, but the traditions are still there and the Italians that still reside there are proud. It's very important to all of us to retain the Little Italy flavor of the neighborhood.
Hartford's Little Italy is located on Franklin Avenue and was established in the early 1900s after a wave of Italian immigration. The reason that so many Italian immigrants were attracted to Hartford was actually because of how many job opportunities the city had. By 1910, the population of Hartford was 14% Italian, and more than 60% lived in one small section of the city, the Front Street neighborhood. That neighborhood was eventually destroyed by a major flood in the 1930s and was ultimately rebuilt on Franklin Avenue. Perhaps the biggest staple of the area is the Modern Pastry Bakery, which is famous for its wedding cakes. The city's Little Italy stretches roughly a quarter of a mile and is surrounded by numerous ma and pop shops, though they've started to dwindle in recent years.
New York City's Little Italy was established after a wave of Italian immigrants came to New York at a rapid pace around 1880, which continued for about 43 years. It began when first it was a wave of northern and then eventually southern immigrants, northern being more favored than southern Italian immigrants at the time. And it hit its peak around the mid-1920s, I believe around 1923. So soon after that pretty steady wave of immigration, New York soon became home to about 6 Italian neighborhoods. So it would be split up between those who were Sicilian, those who were Calabrese, and different sections of Italy brought itself to different sections of New York. And by 1940, it started to become a pretty popular tourist attraction as a community of northern and southern Italian barbers, laborers, chefs, musicians, bakers, opened up restaurants and bakeries and meat shops, grocery stores, 100% authentic Italian businesses, because at the time, 98% of Little Italy's population was from Italy. However, this growing and flourishing section of New York City did not last. It eventually downgraded to very few historic marks, as now most of it is gone. The area was soon taken over by other growing neighborhoods like Chinatown, for example, and like many other sections of New York City were eventually subjected to some kind of gentrification as rents skyrocketed and people could no longer afford to live in the area, never mind continuing on the rent of their businesses or bakeries. So one by one, it was slowly starting to disappear. And it took its biggest hit probably back in 2018 when Angelo's of Mulberry Street, which was one of the oldest Italian restaurants still left in the area, caught on fire. So today, most of what remains is just confined to a single street. So as you can see, whether you've been there yourself or you've driven by, most of the sections coined to Little Italy in Connecticut or New York City take most of their culture and cuisine and everything we know about it from Italy itself. So in its early stages of development, Italy was created when the Greeks and the Etruscans settled in what is now known as central and southern Italy, Greeks occupying the south and Etruscans occupying central Italy, which eventually led to the Etruscans creating Rome, which is one of the oldest cities and most popular among tourists in Italy. However, this boot-shaped peninsula is and has been the opposite of unified, as it has undergone very deep-rooted political and social divisions that kept many of its sections apart. Each section is very diverse in terms of its own traditions and culture, as there is this distrust within the generations of Italians, the older thinking that they are the last authentic Italians left, as they disapprove of the changes in the lifestyles brought by the younger generations. However, they're certainly not alone in this battle, as many other countries face some sort of generational divide, including right here in the United States, as we witness on a daily basis. And I feel as though learning about New York City's Little Italy and the migration, and especially the tensions between northern and southern Italy, very much come from Italy's own deep-rooted history with significant differences that have kept them apart. However, no matter the area, there is a very high regard for culture, family being at the center and one of the most important aspects, along with food, language, and other customs. Family is at its core of their culture, as many Italians live at home until their late 20s or even early 30s, and it goes full circle as many parents after retirement or due to old age move in with their children as they get older. So family is very much one of the most important aspects of their culture, and I feel like that has definitely been displayed in the different types of films that we've seen and studies that we've done about Italy. So as we can witness from the different sections of Little Italy here in the United States, or even just on the East Coast specifically, Italian culture is something that is consistently replicated and spread around the rest of the world. Whether it's culture, art, architecture, cuisine, it holds a major influence on the rest of the world and has since the rise of the early Roman Empire.
The difference between the country itself and the three Little Italies is a little bit more obvious. For one, the architecture. Italy has an ancient Roman and Renaissance look, while the U.S. locations don't. The three Little Italies also don't possess the rich history the country has. Of course, Italy is heavily admired for its art, and that's something that really lacks in both New Haven, New York City, and Hartford's Little Italy. Churches are also few and far in between. You really have to look out for them if you want to find one. And finally, there's no language barrier.